Hey, thanks for tuning in, and you're watching Undereducated.
And Overstimulated.
We're just a couple of dudes talk stuff, and if you're interested in the history of everyday objects, boy, do we have some history for you. Mm-hmm. What did we talk about today, Avery?
Well, our topic of talking about today is whisks.
And if you're interested in the history of whisks, you stay tuned and be ready for the history of whisks.
Whisk history. And
the Whiskory.
A Whiskory. I like that. Yeah. And be ready for some learning and growing with us as per usual.
Because every episode we get a little less uneducated, a little more educated.
Yeah.
And a little less stimulated.
Bingo.
I hear that you have a theme song for us prepared?
I think so. Finger's a little cold, a little stiff, but I was thinking something along the lines of like...
I like it.
Something like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that it?
Yeah, just some quick little... I can play it like a few times.
Give me a few times. Let's see it. Let me riff on it, too.
In. Okay. Oops. What was that?
Oh, it's Finley's fault.
Yeah, I was laying on his tail.
Educated, over, stimulated, undereducated.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yep.
Thanks for bringing that by, bud.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate that.
Of course. I'll work on that too. I'll work on getting that riff, you know.
And we could do like a proper recording that isn't, you know, so much pressure at once.
Yeah, yeah. But today, what I did, I thought I said peach for a second. I was like, oh, peach for your...
Sorry, I moved that. You can feel free to move it where you want it.
This?
Yeah.
Nice. But I listened to a podcast today.
What was it?
It's called Hero. It's about, I think it's about women working in economics or something. I don't know. Just kind of like the first thing that popped up on Spotify. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I should try listening to a podcast.
Oh, how was it?
It was all right. It just kind of sounded like news.
Yeah. You definitely can't just go off of what Spotify wants to give you.
Yeah.
It does not have good suggestions.
I believe that.
There's some that are on there that have just been so popular for so long that, you know, I think they're perfectly good. Like, Lore is one of them. I think, you know, the boss lady upstairs knows that one.
Lore, like L-O-R-E.
L-O-R-E, and this guy talks about old stories that some of them are, I think they're real, actually, or some of them aren't. I don't know, it's kind of like mysterious tales, and he has some good sound design, and that one was around a long time ago. I remember listening to it, still on the front page every once in a while, or some podcasts will get this, like, status that it's been around, it's established, it's kind of a go-to for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Kind of like this one.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Sound, did you say soundscape earlier?
Yeah, so when he's telling a story, he'll have some ambient music and noise, and then if something happens in the story, there will be a corresponding sound that goes with it.
I got you. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed in the podcast I was listening to today was the amount of effort they put into making the sound quality and like the whole production of this one episode. I was like, wow, it's clearly, you know, they obviously have a whole team and like a lot of money into this, I would assume.
Or a passion for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we can do a lot of that stuff. It's just, it takes time to edit.
Yeah.
You know? So usually listening to this all the way through, it doesn't take that much time unless I do stupid shit like this. But like,
yeah.
And I don't know exactly what I'll put there, but now I know I got to put something there.
Yeah.
But kind of come into the whole editing this thing and treating it like a craft. I was thinking of doing something that would grip viewers in the very beginning, because a lot here. Actually,
Like something alarming. Just
something
like,
intriguing. It doesn't have to be like deceptive, but here, let me just pull up some stats. Honestly, at this point, I don't know how much of this I want to keep.
what we have so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's
You
fair.
feel like
But
it's
I mean,
gold?
yeah, I think it's kind of on par with everything so far. So yeah.
I'll show you some of these analytics for our last episode. 101 views, but let's see, engagement. I want to see the chart, audience retention. Look at that. Look at how much of that just falls off right at the very end. The very end, beginning 100% retention. 2 minutes in, or a minute 30, we're at 15%. 45 seconds, we're at 20. So this is like all the people who don't know our stuff.
Yeah.
They're not finding us on purpose. They're finding us by accident.
Yeah.
And so here you can see reach, how viewers find this video. 76% of views were from suggested videos.
Interesting.
So people, like, it'll come on automatically after their previous video that they just finished watching.
Yeah.
Or it comes up on their feed and they think it's interesting and they'll click on it, maybe not knowing what it is. And then that first few seconds, they're like, oh, this is a podcast, whatever. And kind of leave from there. So
Yeah. What about, do we have the same stats from the previous episode 6 or whatever that was?
yeah, absolutely.
Or most, because I think that was the most viewed episode.
So what are you looking at? Reach?
Well, curiously, the same thing that you're looking at, like how quickly people stopped watching.
Oh, that's going to be the same. And a big part of this is that it's a podcast.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the fuck we got 106% retention in the beginning, but
That's good. That's good.
So at 51 seconds, we're at 23 of the original people. 4 minutes, we're at 9%. And then, 3%, 2%.
Interesting. That's really interesting to see, actually.
Yeah. And so something I did notice on the last episode was that people dropped off when I put on the sock video, when I put the sock movie into the episode.
Interesting.
And I think it's just people might have gotten confused and thought that, like, oh, this is an autoplay of the next video or something like that.
Huh.
And just turned off at that point.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't set it up well enough that people knew that it was coming.
Yeah.
It's just kind of jarring. So the other thing, look, same thing. It had, what was it, 180 views. 83% of those were from the browse feature.
Huh.
So people just
that's kind of cool though. That the browse feature is just pushing.
Yeah, YouTube has changed their algorithm.
There.
YouTube's changed the algorithm a lot lately to do
Yeah.
that. So, look. Oh, this must be someone we know found it through Google search.
Oh, nice.
Instagram is us linking it. I don't know what that one is.
Huh.
Oh, Messenger, some kind of message system. So a link one of us sends someone. But,
interesting.
Yeah, I was looking a little bit at this. That's the reason I guess I say let's do something in the beginning that hooks people and lets people know what this is, because I think sometimes we just get into it and people hear a couple of strangers talking and they're like,
what is this?
"What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. So this gives me kind of a thought. Could we share this like on a screen here with the viewers to be able to see?
Yeah.
And then engage with them and be like, hey, like, how do we change this? What are your recommendations? Looking at the charts and be like, let's have a little team effort here. Let's get a little engagement from our clients.
Yeah, I guess. So I mean, part of me thinks, okay, let's do this. So we have the total reach, 89 unique viewers. Let's just say.
Okay.
Well, not let's just say, that's what it is. So of 89 unique viewers, let's say the average was 10% retention. Somewhere around there, and then it drops off here, kind of stays lower. So 9 people actually watched this all the way through.
Wow.
These are all people we know.
Yeah.
So I feel like asking for feedback from, like, if we put it at any point in our video that isn't in the very fucking beginning, which at this point I don't want a stranger's feedback.
Yeah.
Like, I know we just got to hook them.
Yeah. Dude, I was also thinking, because we kind of lack direction still. I was thinking we could have like a, gosh, I swear I was thinking, it was today while I was walking around, have a segment or a part, or have undereducated and overstimulated do a new podcast and have it be called
Highly educated, totally focused.
well, no, something like everything's got a story or everything has a history. And we just do what I don't want to do, but do deep dives on things and go into the history of just household items.
So why do it if you don't want to do it?
Well, for success, for the fame and glory. And I think it could be stimulating in a good way for me. And then it might engage the viewers more and make them want to stick around past that 51-second mark.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that's going to come with time, you know, and just us getting better at our craft. But there is a formula to this whole YouTube thing. And I don't know if we're talking shop so much that like this is not interesting to people.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is just good for us too to talk about and plan. But
yeah,
there are structures to YouTube videos, and it typically starts with a hook. It always starts with a hook because retention that's actually kind of common. It says it right here. 23% of viewers are still watching around the 30-second mark, which is typical. And so I don't know if this is actually typical for us, but usually engagement will drop off immediately because people leave autoplay on their videos.
Yeah.
And they might click something, get a few seconds of it and be like, oh, this isn't what I'm interested in. And so that's common. But that's why people really focus on what's the hook, what's the really strong hook to get people to watch. A few things people might do are directly address a group of people. And so on advertisements, let's say, if I'm trying to reach a group, I would just go, hey, such and such group, is this like a common problem you have? And that immediate like connection, like, oh, this is for me. Rather than it's ambiguous, like, what is this kind of thing? Immediately grabs their attention. You promise them something, like, and it doesn't have to be something of value per se. Like, you could just say, this is what's going to happen in this video. And if they're interested in that kind of thing, they'll stick around and because they want the thing or they want to hear what it is that we have to say. But if we're ambiguous about what it is that we're doing here, they'll just like try and figure it out for a few seconds and go, fuck it, next thing. Which it's just how kind of people operate. I think me included. Yeah,
me too. I'm definitely fairly prone to like just clicking through so many different YouTube videos until I finally just get bored of clicking through. I'm like, I'm just going to watch this one.
Exactly.
So yeah, I guess I also have been thinking about it a little bit with like the engagement with the camera. Like when we're sitting here talking, like I want to look at you when I talk. But like, since this is for our viewership, should we be looking at the camera more even while we're conversing to one another?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this. It's pretty common for podcasts to have a camera off to the side. So unless you're doing a video where you're just speaking monologue directly to the camera, to like your audience, then it doesn't make sense for you to look right at the camera. Yeah. But because people listen to us having conversations because we're having conversations, not because we're talking to each other while staring at, you know. Actually, there is a thing where videos, if you're staring dead on into the camera, those videos actually get viewed less than if it's a quarter angle thing and it looks like it's a clip from a podcast.
Interesting.
So a lot of people will like stage a podcast when in reality they're just sitting by themselves talking about a topic. And they make it seem like, oh, this is a clip from a podcast. It's just people. I don't think people want that like direct engagement all the time. I think
maybe just like a little. Maybe I'll strive like a little more because like, you know, like when we're talking, you don't also want to just like stare at somebody just deadpan the whole time you're talking to them because like it's a little intense. But you don't want to like not look at them at all. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Did we talk too much shop? Should we run this back? Do you think this would be interesting for people? What would be our hook?
Well, I was going to ask you what hooks you. But since, I don't know, I feel like since this is such a learning process for us and this whole thing, like, and like the people that are watching, like they're just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah.
And the experience. So like, you know, I'm down to keep rolling with it.
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
I think we should, if we're going to keep rolling with it, we should definitely at least put a hook. And we could do the hook now, and I'll just put it at the top of the video. Because, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it's like, hey, you know, you just tuned in to, or hey, welcome to our podcast where we talk about such and such and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, our hook can be maybe like learning and growing with making a podcast with having no prior experience.
Well, so and that's what we talk about at work all the time, and I think even I hear YouTubers talking about it's like there is no step-by-step guidebook. You know, people have those, and it works for certain kinds of niches, and it works for certain kinds of videos, but it's mostly just testing.
Yeah.
You try something, how'd that work? Look at the metrics.
Yeah.
Try it. If it did it work well, did it maybe not move the needle so much? Try something different next time, and just keep trying stuff.
Maybe we could do like our hook can be brief histories of common household items, and figuring out what in the hell we're doing on this podcast.
Wait, I thought the household item thing was going to be a different episode.
Oh yeah, I just tried throwing it in there, see if it would stick.
What if we promise that? If we promise people that we'll tell them the history of a household item, and we just never do?
That could be a fun little little review.
Well, stick around to the end to hear.
Yeah, about whisks. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, whisks. I'm sure whisks have a huge history, like long,
Convoluted,
yeah, that's the word I was looking
interconnected
for.
history.
Yeah. I
So
wonder.
you had this idea, you didn't come with a history of any objects?
No, just the idea. I figured probably Google something really quick.
Yeah.
But I feel like something like the whisk, for instance, has been around for a long time. It's like very useful, but I wonder at one point people decided they needed a whisk.
Yeah.
Like, was it eggs?
So how about this? What if you think about what the history for a whisk would be,
Yeah.
and I could look it up, and
Yeah.
then we could see.
Also, we could just make it up.
True.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we could fact check ourselves too at the end too. I think that's a good idea. But if you were to say or guess with confidence why or what caused the whisk to come into existence?
So I don't have to guess because I actually know.
Seriously?
Yeah, it was in London in about 1646 or somewhere like between 1646. I think I'm remembering that number exactly because
Yeah.
of something else. But let's just say in
let's say like
late
just
1600s.
pre-America
Oh yeah,
existing.
17. Well,
Because like Columbus came over in like
1492.
16...
Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, right?
Oh.
And then the United States was established in 1776. So let's just say at some point in the 1500s, the Americas were being colonized.
Okay. And then the whisk came into existence.
Well, it was actually invented in London for a problem in America. This is a weird part. So there was an envoy between the American colonies, a British envoy, obviously, because it was invented in London.
Yeah.
And he would go back and forth and saw that chickens actually, the ground in the United States, well, it wasn't the United States, sorry, the Americas, was actually very fertile for chickens at that time. Now, not so much. And we can talk about the great chicken nourishment issue.
Well,
that's
yeah,
going on.
we've depleted our chicken
Yeah.
nutrition.
So, I mean, do you know the story? Because it sounds like you know it. Do you
Well,
wanna tell the rest
I
of it?
heard a totally, I actually heard a different story about the whisks. But that's classic history for you, you know. You taught one thing. Sometimes I feel like I had the privilege of going to a small private school, but I also, growing up, you know, as a kid, because I was learning lots of interesting history, particularly about whisks.
Yeah. You
but,
had a good teacher.
Yeah, she knew her whisks.
She knew her way around her whisk.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes I think maybe I didn't have the greatest education because I feel like they left out a lot of things. But what I learned, the whisk came around in France circa 1392 for the soufflés for Prince. who's that French prince?
Louis.
Louis? Yeah, that's the guy. And previously, his cooks, they would make these souffles and have like, does a souffle have a meringue on top of it?
It does.
Yeah, and it would have a meringue, and they're just using forks the whole time. And the meringue would have
like
good
a
body.
2-pronged, 3-pronged fork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would get these like flaccid, droopy meringues. And
Yeah. Can't have
King Louis or Prince Louis or whatever his name is, he liked it a lot more perky.
that. Yeah. As a king does.
Yeah. Perky souffles are needed. And it was actually, I forget the name of the inventor of it.
Descartes.
But it was a young boy. Who?
Descartes.
Descartes? Mm-hmm. I think that was, yeah.
Nino Descartes.
Nino Descartes. Mm-hmm. And he invented it while he was working in the kitchen as a 12-year-old. And it just took off like wildfire.
The thing that, that's actually jogging my memory. I think when I was saying the whole thing about the envoy from the Americas in London, I wasn't thinking about the whisk. I was thinking about the thing where it's basically a whisk. It's 2 whisk, and then it's got the gears, and you turn it. It's like the old-fashioned mixers.
Oh, yeah.
But so the whisk actually, after it was invented by Nino Descartes, it's wild. Louis was so happy about the soufflés, but when he saw that like a 12-year-old boy was able to make his soufflés even better, he decided that he needed to punish the adults who were fucking the soufflés up.
Yeah.
How could this 12-year-old do this better than you? And so he actually decided, as like this cruel form of irony, to use the whisk as a torture device on them.
How did would you get their hairs like stuck in it and like?
Well, like a modern day whisk, the bands, like the metal bands, they're smooth, they're soft. But to do it back in those days, you would need to like hammer out thin metal bands, and they were sharp.
It's true.
They were thick. And so it was more of like this is kind of graphic if your children are listening to this. Why? But if your children are listening to this, pause the
cool
video,
cat.
skip to the about 30 seconds. So they'd have this log on legs, and they'd bend them over the log and then tie their hands down.
Oh no!
And then insert
whisk them.
The whisk. Yeah,
I was brutal.
Yeah,
but it was rough times from the brief or the small amount of history that I know.
He's like, I think he has a famous quote saying, "You fucked up my souffle. Now I will souffle you."
Nice, yeah. I think that sounds like.
Or did he say poo fillet? I don't remember how.
That sounds like pretty vintage Louis.
Yeah.
Should we?
And then he said after that.
Should we branch out and now fact check ourselves to see if our story was right? When was the whisk invented?
I think we were pretty close.
And who invented it?
Okay, whisk history. I'm going to go to Wikipedia because I don't want to use the AI-generated summary at the top.
I think that's a great call.
It says this article needs additional citations for verification, which means that our story could be true no matter what this says.
Yeah.
Let's see. The history of a whisk. Bundles of twigs, typically apple, have long been used as whisks. Often the wood used would lend a certain fragrance to the dish. An 18th century shaker recipe calls to cut a handful of peach twigs that are filled with sap at this season of the year. Clip the ends and bruise them and beat the cake batter with them. This will impart a delicate peach flavor to the cake. The bamboo whisk, or chasen, was invented in the late 15th century by Murato Juko.
Wow.
The wire whisk was invented sometime before 1841. So they were just using bundles of twigs.
Huh, that's interesting. That's a way later than I was expecting.
Well, the metal whisk was 1841, but I guess, that recipe for the cake was what, 18th century.
Yeah.
So 1700s. And then the bamboo whisk in the 15th century, so 1400s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is later than I thought. But they must have been using it before then, right?
I would think so. I think the whisk was probably one of the first things ever invented because it just makes so much sense.
I guess like what would you use it for? Would you use it? You wouldn't use it to make a dough. You would use it to make a batter.
Yeah.
But then you would need cooking tins to make the batter, to like keep the batter in a shape when you bake it.
All right. This is adding up, I guess.
History is an interesting beast.
It is.
Yeah.
It really
Arr.
is. Yeah, rar, indeed.
I think. What do you think was better though, the truth or our story?
Well, I'm actually a little bit more inspired by the apple and peach branch whisk because I want to try that now. But as far as like engaging, I think our story was
Pretty engaging.
pretty engaging.
It got graphic at the end.
It did.
I don't know why you would bring that up.
It took a turn
Yeah.
for the worse. King Louis is strict and apparently a little kinky.
Louis.
Yeah. Oh, I mean Prince Louis.
No, it was.
King.
Oh, it was before he became king.
Yeah.
It was when his father, King Louis the Fifth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think this is what we should do. Let's do the hook part of the video now, and then be like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna go for it. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Hey, this video just started and you're watching. They know the video started. Let's try this one more time. Hey, thanks for tuning in and you're watching Undereducated.
Overstimulated.
That's the order, right? It's not over.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Let's try that one more time. Hey, thanks for tuning in and you're watching Undereducated.
And overstimulated.
We're just a couple of dudes talk stuff and and if you're interested in the history of everyday objects, boy, do we have some history for you. What did we talk about today, Avery?
Well, our topic of talking about today is whisks.
And if you're interested in the history of whisks, you stay tuned and be ready for the history of whisks.
Whisk history. And
the Whiskory.
A Whiskory. I like that. Yeah. And be ready for some learning and growing with us as per usual.
Because every episode we get a little less uneducated, a little more educated,
Yeah.
and a little less stimulated.
Bingo.
And we're back.
Yeah. So we're back. That was smooth.
So this, I kind of, did you want to continue on the whisk thing? Because I actually have something that I feel like I should have brought up at the top of the episode, something we had talked about. And thankfully, one of our biggest fans, if not our biggest fan, was able to fulfill for us.
Agent Schmarm?
No, not Agent Schmarm. If Agent Schmarm would have known, they would have, everybody knows Agent Schmarm's a woman, she would have done this, but I failed to let Agent Schmarm know about this. And Agent Schmarm, if you don't mind doing this for the next episode, we'd be happy to have you take part.
Oh, what's the news? I'm excited.
The news is we've got, can I get a drum roll, please?
Yes. Are you going to do it on that thing?
No, you have to.
Okay.
There you go. So it's close enough. We have fan mail.
Oh, holy smokes.
Yeah, we have a fan letter.
Wow.
I know we were talking about doing this and kind of pulling out the fan mail from a bag and reading it on the pod.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in hearing our fan mail?
I would. To clarify, it's an email. It's fan email because we're not getting hard copy
Fanny mail.
Fanny mail?
Fanny mail. Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody wants to send us hard copy, handwritten, typed out, we've typed out too.
Yeah.
However you want to send it, carrier pigeon, overnight.
Mm-hmm. Courier pigeon, preferably.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, what do we got?
Let's get into it because I think this is a nice one. Curious to hear what everybody thinks. Hey, y'all. Wanted to say that I'm a big fan of the pod. Huge. Arguably, you're number one, but I don't want to stir up a competition with Agent Schmarm. Specifically, I like the name of the pod, Undereducated and Overstimulated. I think there's a lot of folks out there that resonate with it. Nice job, Avery, or possibly Avery's awesome roomie. I can't remember which agent they are, but I digress. I wanted to ask your thoughts on a few things, and you could even call it your advice if that does it for you. You remember those epigrams or aphorisms that used to be found hanging on guidance counselors' white cinder block walls in public schools? Or maybe your grandma had them on the fridge and now somehow they've ended up on your fridge. They said phrases like, today is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. Or, you miss 99% of the shots you don't take. Those patronizing little tidbits were always paired with pictures of a literal rainbow or waterfall that always attributed the quote to Helen Keller, whether she said them or not. You're seeing it, right? Yeah. Okay. As long as you could see it, here's how it relates to y'all. And I promise it does. We're getting there. It just takes me a minute because I too am one of those overstimulated peeps. Nice. Do you think those cheesy, inspirational one-liners scattered throughout our lives have conditioned us into a generation that's easily swayed by get-rich-quick schemes and hustle culture? The kind of thinking that assumes working smarter always means working less? Have we become more influenced by how things sound or appear rather than digging into the actual steps we need to take, no matter how long it takes to achieve them? Or have most traded in the slow life for the cube farm where those same inspirational one-liners still hang on the walls? Just wondering. Y'all are killing it. Keep going. Your #1 fan, Mamby.
Mamby. Thanks, Mamby. That was really nice. And I would say inspirational too, you know. Getting a little fan mail goes a long ways.
Inspirational, but not quite one of those aphorisms or epigrams that hang up on the white cinder block walls, right?
Not quite. If it was, that'd be a long...
That's a pretty long board, yeah.
Aphorism?
Yeah, or...
I've never heard either of those words before.
I understand context clues, so I'm able to figure it out, but I don't know if I know how to use either of those words correctly.
Yeah. Aphorism?
Yeah. Aphorisms or epigrams.
Epigrams? Aphorisms.
We're probably getting caught up on the wrong part of it. More like... So the question was, do you think that those things being sprinkled throughout our lives have kind of led us to this road that we're at today where everything on, I'll just say YouTube, because that's my drug of choice, is saying, this is how you like become a millionaire. This is how you escape the rat race. This is how you get this like freedom, and conditioned us to just try and find the easy way out to do it, whatever is this least amount of steps.
Do I think the aphorisms
played a part in that?
Played a part in our current world, hustle culture, but also like hustle culture is interesting because it's like not really, it's hustle, but nobody wants to, or not nobody, but more often not people want the easy route to that hustle success.
Yeah, I think the hustle culture is like work super hard now so that you don't have to work later. Like work this super hard for this really short amount of time so that you can become rich and never have to work again.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if those little posters led to that. Because the one that's like, you know, you miss 90% of the shots or 99% of the shots you don't take.
Actually, thinking back on that, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
How's that 1%?
Just didn't take it, and it just kind of went in.
Sometimes it just happens, but
that can happen. Actually, that can happen playing basketball. Like, you know, you can try to pass on accident. It's supposed to be a pass, and it just happens to go in.
Yes,
that has happened.
So yeah, your thoughts on that are?
Yeah, my thought on aphorisms.
Aperitifs.
Is I think they probably had an effect on the mindset of a lot of young individuals, you know. I know it certainly did with me, particularly the one that you miss 90% of the shots you don't take or 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. It's math.
Yeah, not my strong suit. But yeah, that actually instilled some confidence, I think, in me growing up. So I was like, fuck, why not? Like, why not try?
You just take the shots.
Yeah, take those shots. You might miss, you might make it. You gotta take it to find out.
It's kind of interesting to say that that's the case would almost be to assume that the drive towards where we're at right now kind of began in the 90s. When I feel like those posters are a result of the same thing. Like, I don't know, they might have perpetuated it further and not caused it in any way because the people who made those may have been influenced by the same kind of shit that we're being influenced right now. Like, there's always been books or inspirational speakers or whatever that are like yeah, you could just get yourself out of your shitty situation if you just did XYZ. And there's always some truth to all of those things, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to look at someone like Tony Robbins. Are you familiar?
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's our neighbor down the street. And he always talks about these kind of like inspirational, this is how you get your life together. And for a lot of people, it helps. And for some people, they say he's a snake oil salesman.
Do you say Tony Throbbins?
I don't watch those kind of videos. No. So Scrony Robin. So the idea is like people will shit on those kind of things because they say that you're preying on the weak in some ways.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think in some ways you are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not right to just outright dismiss everything someone says in that vein of trying to help you become a better person.
Yeah.
Because in order for it to be believable in any sense of the imagination, it has to be based in some kind of truth. Just like those things that we've seen on the walls are like, yeah, it's cliche. And at a certain point, like, people see it. Actually, I think I remember having a conversation about this a long time ago with some friends is you see those things and you go like, well, yeah, obviously, duh. But it's just so trite. I hate when you
I've got a great idea.
I'll wrap it up. Don't forget your idea.
Oh, I've got it.
It's just you see it and you go, this is just so cliche. It's not helpful that we kind of dismiss it outright. But I think that dismissiveness of like, oh, well, this is dumb is what makes it less effective. Because for some people, like you're just saying, you saw that poster of 99% of the shots and that inspired you in some ways.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's all about like what's the perspective you take on it.
What does this have to do with Tony Robbins? Oh, does he write?
He's that
things
kind of
as?
guy. Yeah. He has books. He does speaking tours, and people go and pay a lot of money to hear what he has to say because he'll like inspire people to get out of their current situation and just make their lives better.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like we could do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Go on an inspiration tour.
You just got to lead by example, I think. So people
Yeah.
won't trust you. This is why people trust him and other people is because they have a ton of money. They like exude that radiance that they are successful.
Yeah.
That's why people go to those
Well,
things.
we could try, but yeah, I just barely made rent this week or month. But listen to my words of advice. They're sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so for the past month, 2 months, I've been trying to do this bookkeeping course by Intuit. Breaking my wrist didn't help, so I couldn't type for a month. So that kind of threw me off the rails. But this past week, I've been trying to get back into it. And boy, do I just despise it. It is so hard to be motivated to watch those little tutorial videos and do paperwork. I do not like paperwork.
Yep.
It is. Why is there so much paperwork in this world?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
People need jobs, dude.
I guess so. So more paperwork, more paper pushers. But in light of whatever Tony Throbbins says, that's kind of what I've been trying to do with my bookkeeping course that I'm taking. Just do it. Just feel inspired. Do it for the personal growth. Not doing it for anybody else. Just doing it for the self-discipline and the steps towards success. And all these steps towards success, I think, are leading me to this kind of like this final point. And it's this idea I had moments ago, while you were riffing about what you were just riffing about.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Those like kitschy little like doormats when you walk into your people's homes that says like, live, love, laugh.
Yeah.
Or like the little Christmas like ask things that hang. What if we made those and they just didn't quite make sense? They're just like
just a little off.
Just a little off.
Live loose, love.
Yeah. Or like,
Love loose.
sweet welcome home.
You repeat words.
Yeah. I feel like
And it'd just be gag gifts for people.
well, I don't know. I feel like there's enough of that sense of humor out there in the world, and the internet is so vast that enough people would see it. Like, yeah, I want that. That's like an innocent enough little like joke or gesture that somebody's like church group could kind of like get behind it. And be like, yeah, instead of having like Jesus loves you and this and that, it could have just slightly,
that'll be a hard one to play with.
yeah, or maybe we just leave the whole Jesus thing out of it.
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
those,
they can
that
get
I feel like that
serious if they
demographic likes that type of stuff.
Yeah, that demographic does like that gather. Like it's just a word on the wall that says gather.
Yeah, we like gather to spell a little
Guther.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so there's this guy that kind of does similar things on Instagram where he'll make fake products, fake toys, whatever. And I mean, I don't know if he actually leaves one of them in a store, but he'll take a picture of it at a store as if he's leaving it amongst the shelves with the other stuff.
Oh, nice.
That's legit.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of somebody stumbling across it and be like, what the fuck is this thing? They're intentionally weird.
Yeah.
I think it's a great business idea, dude. Add it to the list.
Thanks. Yeah, the list is getting long.
Yeah, it's all in here.
Yep. I've never seen that company before. Guess. Is it comfy?
Feel it.
Is
It's
it
an interesting
Is it a
material.
natural fiber? No, it feels like
No,
nylon.
pretty fake.
Yeah.
Guess is a pretty popular company. This is nice. It's an expensive brand, but all of my expensive clothes are hand-me-downs.
Nice. That's good.
Or thrift shop
Wait,
finds.
you don't have older siblings. How are they hand-me-downs?
So I have an uncle who is gay and has a great sense of style.
Oh, nice.
His husband is also gay and
Nice.
also
That
has a
makes
great
sense.
sense of style. And we're all the same like size in shirt and shoe kind of. Well, actually, I'm only same size of shoes with one of them, but yeah.
You guys are just basically the same all around.
So like whenever they get tired of whenever they get tired of clothes is when I get them, which is nice. So Christmas is coming up. I'm sure I'll get a nice bag full of new clothes.
I love that. That's a hand-me-down. That's definitely a hand-me-down.
And then Goodwill is like everyone's hand-me-down, except
That's
you got to
true.
pay for it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a racket going on there.
Yeah, that is the biggest, I think. Whoever thought of that is kudos to them. It's a genius move.
I actually learned about that not too long ago, the history of Goodwill. And this is a legitimate history as well as I can remember it. But Goodwill started because there was like, honestly, people just couldn't afford clothing. And before you can mass produce textiles, it was like when textiles were produced, if clothes, let's say, broke in any kind of way, you would reuse those fabrics in some kind of way or the other. And that was considered a faux pas because it's like it could carry disease or something like that. And so there were thrift shops, and I was learning about the history of thrift shops, really. They were all kind of under the table thing. If you were higher class and you needed a gown or you wanted to get rid of a gown or something like that, you wouldn't tell people you're going to a thrift shop. And it was often that these people would like clean the clothes, fix them back up, and then have to take them somewhere else or sell them somewhere else so that they can get sold. And it eventually started, Goodwill started out of a charity for people who like just literally could not afford even like the secondhand garments. But then it got so much success that it blew up into this multinational, I don't know actually what countries it's in, but I think it started in England. And now it's just this huge conglomerate. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
I only half pay attention to things.
Well, so does everybody else, so that's okay.
What?
Exactly. Yeah, interesting. I kind of like, I feel like history in podcasts is just maybe a little cliche, maybe a little too common. But the more we do this and the more I listen to podcasts, like I listen to one whole entire podcast a day, the more I get intrigued by it. And I also like this past year, I've been really enjoying the thought of like a self-discipline of practice, you know, and kind of putting that intention towards a podcast like this and like, hey, let's, you know, do the usual banter and have our fun. But let's bring some topics. Let's research Goodwill a little bit. Let's just do it because that's an interesting thing. It's really actually very interesting and has a big history. And then like within the banter or the talking about our topics, our goodwill, for instance, our histories, we'll still have I think our organic banter and
Yeah, for sure.
chat.
That happens. So you're interested in history then?
Yeah, but not history, nothing too typical. History, a little more obscure.
I don't know if that exists anymore. Typical.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people are doing things.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much history about this war and yada yada yada, and this country yada 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 and yada yada countrymen and war and the history.
Yeah.
Of blah blah blah.
So I get what you're saying. I think I can kind of relate it to my dad loves war movies, and it's just how many fucking World War II movies are you gonna make?
Yeah.
And I think that's something. My buddies actually majored in like history, but it was specifically in World War II, and he studied abroad in Germany with like the world's premier World War II scholar and the stuff. But
Interesting.
I know that there's a lot to learn. It changed the world in a lot of ways, but still, it's like I think there's certain wars that get glorified. I get what you're saying about that.
Yeah, kind of like Spider-Man movies. Just like stop making Spider-Man movies. Just knock it off. We've had enough. Yeah.
Hey.
Yep.
Don't make that. Don't do it.
Yep. We need a new superhero.
Oh.
I think I've got one.
Okay.
I won't dive into that right now. That's
Can you tease it?
well, I think we've teased it a little bit in the past.
Can you
But-
remind me?
It's a superhero that most people have living in them. It just takes,
Inner child, man.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
But
Damn.
yeah, a little something here too, on the left side.
It's good podcasting.
Yeah. It's the name of the superhero is called Blue Shield.
Oh yeah. I remember
Yep.
Blue Shield.
Yep.
He's like an astral hero.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. This young boy in this case finds his astral being, and they team up. And it turns out a certain amount of people can do that, and everybody can do that. A certain amount of people can do it easily,
Yeah.
but everybody could do it with enough focus.
And then there's a bad guy that's like enslaving people to steal their astral powers.
Well, the bad power comes from the moon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But how do you fight the moon? How's the moon like personified?
Pyramids? Pyramids are weapons.
Okay.
The moon.
I'm saying like story wise, how's the conflict presented?
Oh, well, let's see. Let me make this up.
Yeah, so let's say Blue Shield has to activate the pyramids to what? Blow up the moon, or like
Yeah, to shoot the moon down.
like the physical moon or the astral moon?
Physical moon.
Oh shit. Okay.
But no, so all moons are bad, right? So how this can begin is like, and this is coming from, moons are planted from another galaxy, a different race, human-esque, but they're like became corrupt, and they went down the path that we went down of corruption, but stayed down it for too long, and like need power from other solar systems. And so they've planted these moons in each solar system, and they just slowly suck the power out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is something I think is long overdue, is the moon conversation. Maybe we won't dive into it completely right now because I want to keep talking about Blue Shield, but there's an idea that like the moon is what keeps human souls on Earth rather than allowing them to transcend and like, let's just say, go to the next phase of whatever existence is. There's some people that believe that the moon actually keeps people reincarnating on Earth because the people who put the moon in place, or the beings, whatever,
Yeah.
put the moon in place, they feed off of our suffering. And so to allow people to escape and transcend would mean less people suffering, which means less energy for them.
Yeah.
Is that kind of along the lines?
Yeah. Yeah, I really haven't like written the whole story for like why the moons are there to begin with. But Pretty much something like that, yeah. They're placed there to harvest and use the energy.
So then the aliens that put the moon in place would ideally be the ones trying to stop the blue shield from activating the pyramids to blow up the moon.
Yep.
Okay.
And those aliens are currently in control of our media system to keep people disassociated from who they actually are and how capable we actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to think that we're all like, oh, just getting by and just simple humans, but in reality, like we're unique, we're special, very capable.
Yeah,
yeah.
We make whisks out of twigs.
Yeah,
like who would have thought of that?
Yeah. Yep.
Astral people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think it's something we could workshop.
Yeah,
we could develop it into something for sure.
I think so.
Let's make us. What do you think? Feature film, series, comic book, novel?
Well, I think kind of like Marvel. Kind of like we need to replace the Marvel whole or the DC Marvel because they're just I don't know, they're just like repeating their stories and nothing's engaging anymore from them.
I guess what would make us different?
Ours would be different. It would be like because like I feel like they're just like redoing X-Men, they're redoing Batman, they're redoing Spider-Man, just like they're redoing the same superhero and it's like the same formulaic story and like the same emotional roller coaster, whereas ours would be like probably 8 total movies. And it can expand continuously because
become the Marvel universe. Yes.
Yeah. but different, yeah, and more interesting, and more modern because Marvel is also from like the 50s.
Yeah, I think we could work on it for sure. Yeah, we could see what we come up with that's a little bit different and intriguing.
Yeah, we just need funding somehow. We got to be able to just do this just right.
Well, actually, you might be surprised at the tools that allow us to do something like this if we really wanted to. I mean, there's something called Unreal Engine. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a video game engine that people use. It's like there's tutorials on how to use it, and I'm not saying it's easy to learn, but it's super accessible. And if you really wanted to learn it, you could. And it has a pretty robust set of tools that allow you to make what are called cutscenes in a video game. So like between gameplay, whenever there's a little movie.
Yeah.
It has like all the ways that you can program the camera to move, and you program the characters, and you could voice record and things like that. And people make, movies and video games, and they're not feature length, but they'll do a 10 or 15 minute movie.
Yeah.
And then now with AI too, there's the ability to generate images on the fly, and you can basically make a comic book if you wanted to, and maybe that's enough of a proof of concept that someone's like, I would like to see this in a movie. And
and that's a really good thought, actually, the working with AI to make a comic book, because I feel like it could work pretty easily.
Yeah, and then we'll see if the tools to make the tools to make decent AI video are kind of out already, but you can make some lifelike video with AI.
Huh.
You haven't seen any of those?
Well, I think I've seen like some pictures. Like I saw a cat flying a broom earlier today. I was like, oh, it's definitely AI.
Yeah, the pictures are everywhere.
Cats can't actually fly brooms.
No.
Unless
they don't have thumbs.
Yeah. This one was just kind of sitting like on the broom, just chilling.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the broom. Some brooms are more feisty.
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
I guess technically brooms can't fly, so that would make sense why a cat.
Well, no, they float.
Float.
Yeah, they hover.
So it's like witches this whole time. I thought they were flying, and they're actually just kind of floating there,
levitating.
Yeah,
it's a.
I can't go forward. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, okay. So this is actually interesting science. You want to talk about how whisks are made? Do you know how a wheel works?
How a wheel works?
Yeah. So basically, whenever a wheel is like moving, it goes in this clockwise or counterclockwise movement, whatever. It depends on your perspective. But like it just rolls the earth underneath it.
Wow.
And so the wheel is always in the same place. It's just the earth.
Wow.
That it's moving to get to where it wants to go.
Holy smokes. That's pretty good. Did you just make that up right now?
No, that's NASA. NASA has a patent on wheels.
Damn. Dang.
NASA invented wheels.
Dang, NASA's been around for a long time.
What if we make the misinformation podcast?
Oh, I'm down. I'm down. I feel like some
Since-
people might say that's a lot of podcasts already.
True.
Like Joe Rogan and a lot
Yeah,
of the
true.
whatever.
Ew.
Well,
You watch Joe Rogan?
no, actually, I've never watched Joe Rogan.
Oh, no?
No.
I think he's good for a little bit, and then after you watch him for however long, you go like, this guy just kind of says the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
He has also changed a lot. Like they really painted him out to be like this villain,
Huh.
and I think it radicalized him against the media. So now he's like
Interesting.
they tried to what is it, take away his credibility,
Yeah.
and then ended up pushing him towards like what they were saying that he was. Interesting stuff.
That is interesting.
I stand by JRE. I think he's a pretty solid guy.
JR.
Well, the Joe Rogan Experience is the name of his podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people around here that might want to string me up and lynch me for saying that, but I think
Yeah.
Joe Rogan should have a right to have a podcast, and people should have a right to like him. Hang me to a tree if you think that that's fucked up.
Yeah. You know what I think is fucked up in the podcast industry?
What's that?
Seems as if most podcasters already had a platform. They were Joe Rogan, for instance.
Yeah. Joe Rogan didn't start off that popular, though. A lot of guys go for years before they blow up.
Yeah.
It's a consistency thing.
Yeah.
And then finding your flow, getting good at what you do, you know?
True. That could be interesting to like try to find back in the archive some of Joe Rogan's very first podcasts and just listen in and see what his experience was like. Yeah. That was pretty good. That was like a very burpy burp.
Did you say you could fart on command?
No.
I think that was probably on a podcast I listened to.
Well, if I do certain yoga poses and then lay on my side, yeah, I usually fart. But
There's a whole ritual to it.
It's not predictable.
Nice. So I think, how about this? Let's wrap this up. Let's talk a little bit more about our other podcast ideas. And then
off camera or
off camera.
Okay.
I think we talked enough shop in the beginning.
Yeah.
Honestly, not excited to have people listening to us talk shop.
I personally think this is a great episode. Very interesting. I was more engaged in this episode than I've been in a long time.
Yeah, but it's not about whether or not we're engaged.
Well, yeah, but a little, you know.
A little. It's a yes and. It's both.
Yeah. It's a double-bladed sword.
It's a devil-bladed sword, yeah.
No, double-bladed sword. It's a double-handled sword. So, like, instead of having a point, you just have another handle.
Oh, in the middle is a blade?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rad.
Nice. So, how do you think we end? Oh, we didn't ask people to do the thing.
Oh, to subscribe,
Yeah.
like and follow,
like
share.
And follow. Hey, and this message is for those of you who actually stuck around because you wanted to know about Whisk, and then stuck around because you just liked our wit and our charm.
Thanks, guys and gals, and
yeah, Agent Smart.
Theys.
Yeah, all of you guys. So, I think that's how we wrap it up. There's another piece of advice that I heard, but I think this applies more to 10-minute, 15-minute episodes or videos.
Yeah.
Don't end the video is something they say. So the moment you start saying like, okay, we're going to wind like, oh, and that's it. And when you start winding down, people are like, video's over, and they'll skip to the next thing and they won't watch the last however many minutes there are.
Oh.
And so people are like, when you're talking about something, build on an idea. And then before, like when you're getting ready to finish the podcast, lead into the next idea and then end it really abruptly and have like the next video on the suggested thing be the next idea that you just continued into.
Nice. Well, here's for our next episode. We're going to talk about whether we think prominent figures throughout history would be good at podcasting today, such as Gandhi or Martin Luther King. But yeah, we'll see you next time.